here we go. So welcome to Art 244. And we're now well into the second week of the class and everything. I have to turn in reports for the class roster, and if there is anybody who hasn't shown up in the first 2 weeks, they're going to get administratively withdrawn from the class. So that doesn't mean that you're kicked out of the class necessarily. If a person then comes back and says, hey, I'm here, I was here, or I had some kind of problem and now I'm going to be attending, then I can add you back into the class. But administratively, for all of your individual financial aid and everything else, we have to be able to turn in who's attending and who's not attending the class. So I will make that known to the registrar after today. So what I was going to do tonight was ask you guys about, have you got an idea yet for your sculpture? Have you been able to think up something that you might want to do? And if the answer is no, that's okay. I'm also going to ask you a follow-up question like, what do you like in art? Do you have any favorite artists? Do you have any favorite styles of art? Or even modes, like, do you like painting? Do you like sculpture? And this can go as far as, I really like graphic novels, or I really like comic books, or I really like video games. I mean, tell me what you are really seeing out there as some kind of art that you are interfacing with, that you're identifying with, that you might be inspired enough by to make a sculpture out of. And that can be our point of departure. I've had many people make things based on comic books, graphic novels, or video game characters. So that's not outside of the realm of possibility. This isn't just a hoity-toity art class where all you can do is make something that's based on art history and nothing else counts, because that's not true. So having said that, maybe that will help jumpstart your creativity a little bit as we go around and talk about what we're going to do. And I thought I would lead off the discussion talking about what I need for my own sculpture for a project for this class, and how I go about getting the visual image put together and how that all works for me. And so I'm going to take my wax that I have warm, I'm going to put it back under my arm again, and save it for later, because then it'll be all warmed up. And in the meantime, I'm just going to go through and talk about my sculpting process. So I have in my hot little hand a rather time-worn manila folder that I put downloads, hard copies, printouts, photographs of mostly the models that I work with, because I'm at an age and a level in my professional development where I'm not getting stuff off the internet anymore. I'm not pulling ideas out of magazines, although sometimes I do. Sometimes, when I'm getting a fashion magazine like a Vogue or something like that, and I see an interesting fashion model pose, I might want to think about doing that as a nude in bronze sculpture. And so I might steal the idea, but then I'll usually work with my model or one of the people who are modeling for me to ask them to do that pose. And so I don't want to work with photographs of nude people that are fully full color, high resolution photographs, because they live in the community, and I don't want to I'd like to help to maintain their autonomy and their anonymity and that kind of thing. So I will usually take a photograph of them. I photograph my models to try to come up with ideas and brainstorm ideas and stuff. So here's a seated photograph of a person sitting on the floor, and I've run it through Photoshop, and I've applied the filter Find Edges. And so this went from a nude photograph to now a line drawing of somebody sitting on the floor. There's enough information there. There's the proportions, there's the all the features and everything are there, so that I can translate this drawing into a sculpture. I did something similar last quarter with this. Again, this is a photograph of somebody sitting, and then I used a couple of filters in Photoshop to translate this into a charcoal drawing so that I had something that was a non-photographic thing to use. I'm particularly worried about this kind of stuff when I'm teaching you guys in class, in person, here in the studio, because you know, it's just kind of, it's creepy enough to have a teacher who's doing nudes, and then to have a teacher who's doing nudes also have photographs of nude people that are high resolution color photographs that are totally recognizable sitting on the table. That feels even creepier. So to try to take some of the creepy ness out of that and try to make it a little bit more professional and have a little bit more professional distance involved and psychological safety for everybody involved, I'm taking photographs and turning them into line drawings so that I've got something that, you know, is something I can work with that isn't going to be as confrontational or, you know, problematic for other people who might, you know, look over and look at the image that I'm working with. So I've got my drawings in a folder. They're all hard copies that I can actually look at, so that when I try to do and work on a sculpture, when I'm working on a wax sculpture, I have actually a drawing, or, you know, based on a photograph. So I've got the proportions, and I've got the pose, and I've got everything I need to be able to translate it from the photograph or drawing through my fingertips and into, you know, the sculpture. And so by doing all of that translation through your fingertips, you know, it becomes your own piece, basically. You know, even if I am trying as hard as I can to copy a drawing in here or a photograph in here, it's being translated through my fingertips into a sculpture, because I can't perfectly copy something. So, you know, in other classes, we're really worried about plagiarism and copying and stuff like that. In art, it's really, really hard to copy something perfectly. So we really talk about, instead of copying things, we are influenced by those things. We appropriate imagery, and baked into the word appropriate is appropriate. It is actually okay. It is appropriate to use other imagery and do your sculpture or your paintings or whatever based on the other imagery, because you are translating it through your fingertips, through your own sensibilities, and you're making it your own. And that's the same thing that we do when we're writing a paper and we're paraphrasing, when we're trying to take source material and trying to restate it in a paper in our own words. This is the kind of visual paraphrasing that we would be doing when you are literally paraphrasing in a paper or a speech or something like that. So having said all that, I just want you to know that it's really important for me that you have a hard copy of something, that it's a photograph, that it's a drawing. If you are doing sketches in your sketchbook, that you have it on paper, so that you're not just trying to make this stuff up, that you're not trying to conjure something from your mind's eye and just trying to sculpt it freehand. You know, masterful sculptors at the height of their creative powers have a difficult time doing that. Some can, and sometimes it works out for them, but many can't. And so most of us mere mortals have to use some kind of a drawing or visual aid or visual reference while we are sculpting our sculpture. So having said that, I've got this new seated figure that I'm going to do this as a sculpture this quarter. I'm probably going to try to do something with this, but since Aurora talked about doing a dancer, I have done one ballet dancer so far that was up on one toe on point before. So I may have to do another dancer or dance movement kind of thing, so that I can do the temporary wax props on the legs that kind of help hold it up, and so that I can show how that process works, so that you guys can do that too if you happen to be doing that. I want to make sure that you guys understand that I do not expect everybody to do a human figure. I don't expect anybody to do a human figure, but I am a figurative sculptor. Um, my stock in trade is the human figure, and so I will be doing that kind of thing. You are totally welcome to do other kinds of things. They can be abstract, they can be small, they can be animals or any other kind of thing. I mean, animals include baseball players, softball players, and volleyball players, as far as I'm concerned. No, I'm just kidding, volleyball players. You're not animals. Anyway, but animals, um, they're challenging, but they have a slightly different kind of a challenge than trying to do a representational, naturalistic human form. And you can do anything that is abstracted, whether it's a human form or an animal form, can be abstracted too, so that it's not perfectly naturalistic representational in every detail. It can be totally abstract, and that's fine. And I did mention last week the idea of a non-objective, non-representational, totally abstract piece. And that is completely okay. If this is something that appeals to you, this one happens to be fairly organic in its forms, but you can also do abstractions or non-objective pieces that are much more geometric in nature. So something that is geometric, something that's even architectural geometric abstraction is just fine. So anything that you want to do in this class is okay by me, with the possible exception of something that is really blatantly hard for us to look at. I don't want you doing crucifixions of Barbie dolls or things that make fun of religious icons or blatant uh, pornography or obscenity or something like that. But otherwise, this is a community college. Feel bad for me. Give me a break. I'm trying to keep my art department going, and I don't need protesters with signs marching up and down protesting the horrible art that I am promoting here and letting you guys to create. So keep that in mind when you're trying to come up with a composition. Usually I don't have that kind of a problem because most of you guys are just trying to get something done, and you're not out there to be provocative and to provoke everybody. So having said all that and having wasted about 10 minutes of your time, I want to ask you each in order what you think you might want to make this quarter. And if you have an idea, that's great. And if you don't, I may ask a couple of follow-up questions just to see if we can't either come up with something or at least try to identify an interest area for you. So first on my list is Abby Wilson, just because you're there. Abby, let's see. Are you? Yeah, there, I can hear myself, so I know it must be there. Do you have an idea for what you want to do?
I have been kind of inspired. I love Disneyland and all things Disney. I've been kind of inspired by there's a statue when you first walk in that's in front of the castle. It's of Walt Disney and Mickey Mouse. I'm kind of inspired of that, but I would do it with probably just like a girl holding a little girl's hand, but kind of like in the inspiration of that, like kind of like me now holding like little me's hand. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
That is super interesting. It comes from the heart. It's beautiful. You're already talking about two human
Yeah,
figures, so you've doubled the
I want
difficulty.
it's gonna be small though. I'm not making it big. They're gonna be smaller figures.
Okay, well, if you can keep it small, like 8 inches tall or shorter for the tallest figure, and you can please feel free to abstract it so that it's not highly representational and perfectly proportional to trying to be portraits of either Walt Disney or Mickey Mouse
Mhm.
or a mother and child or whatever it's going to be. That would
Yeah,
be fantastic.
yeah.
Um,
I
a-
don't detailed.
Okay, super. That sounds good. I'm just trying to like make some notes here so that I can kind of try to follow the progress of your sculpture over time. And
Mhm.
so, and it can morph, it can change. It does. This is not like it's carved in stone tonight and cannot be ever changed. So, If you
Yeah.
change your mind, just let me know. But one way I can keep you guys straight, because we're not in the same room with each other and I barely recognize your faces on the little tiny squares that are in front of my Zoom face, is that I can associate your name with your project. So that's really helpful. So thanks, Abby. That was good. That's a great start for the evening. Aurora, you happen to be next on my list of people here. Um,
Howdy,
so
howdy.
are you doing a dancer?
Yes, I am. So I kind of went gung ho already. And so this is where I'm at with her so far.
Okay. Oh my God. Oh, there she is. Holy shit. You made a whole human figure in like 1 week. How'd you do that?
I'm obsessed.
You're obsessed. Do you
But I have
have,
lots of like fixing to do. So I haven't done her face at all. And I'm slowly adding in more and more hair. Oh my God, hold on.
okay. So you've got a dancer, it's a nude, it's got long flowing hair.
Yes.
And since we still have like 4 or 5 weeks left for sculpting, you could even do something else besides that. Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's very ambitious. That's
So
gonna be,
my other thing that I wanted to do was possibly like obviously much smaller, but I haven't decided what exactly to do for that one yet. But I was having a lot of fun with the wax and I spent from like 6 to 9 on it and then realized how far it had gotten and was like, I need to slow the fuck down. I have oops, sorry, my language. I have too many weeks to go. So, but there's lots of things that I need to adjust, like proportion wise. So
okay. So are you working off a photograph or anything?
so this was not, but I found photographs that I thought looked similar to this, and that's been helpful. So
Okay, that's good. So yes, please just use downloads, hard copies of anything that can help you with the proportions or the anatomy, working out that kind of stuff. I really appreciate what you did. You're gonna make everybody else feel bad by comparison. I should have called you on you last. Thank
sorry.
you. Thank you so much. That's a huge, awesome thing. I can't believe it's already almost done. That's amazing. Okay, so that's Aurora. Fiona Murphy, do you have an idea that you are coming into possession of yet for sculpture?
Not yet. No.
Okay. How about for something that's kind of fun and little, maybe on the order of, our favorite go-to thing, like a sea turtle or something, a kitty cat, something small, a frog, something where you can just start playing with the wax. Have you tried anything where you're just playing with the warm wax and trying to sculpt something in the additive process?
Yeah, I've been kind of messing around, but I'm not too great at it. So I'll probably just do something small and then see how much time I have left.
Okay. I'm gonna put down undecided, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's no harm, no foul there, but we have to get going on this. So it's going to be time, like this weekend, it's kind of an inflection point to really try to start to focus on a thing and get serious about it. When you think about art, and this can be anything, this can be fine art in museums and galleries, or this can be comic book or video game art. Is there any image that comes to mind that's particularly powerful for you? You can name a video game character, a comic book hero or character, anything.
Um, I don't know. I kind of just like realistic stuff, but I like the stuff that people make out of glass. I like.
Okay. If you think about art in general, in the abstract and not abstract art, do you like animals, or Western art? Do you like horses running, anything like that come to mind that is aesthetically pleasing for you?
I mean, I like animals just in general. So.
Okay, all right. So I'm just, I just asking all of these probing questions to just kind of try to see if there's something that's just sitting there below the surface that, oh yeah, she really likes this one, video game series, or this one video game character or something like that. And that particular heroine, or anti-heroine or whatever, is somebody that you really respond to, or the thing that they use, their attribute, their characteristic or something, their tool or something, is something that's really cool to you, and you might want to sculpt that thing. Sometimes that's where people go with all of this. So but I'm going to leave you alone. I'm not going to do this anymore to you. Who's with you? Who's that other person with you? No, there's somebody with Kylie. Sorry. Okay, so moving on to Kylie. There's two people sitting there. So Kylie, who's that with you?
It's Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. Oh, so I'm gonna. Do you guys usually log in at Kylie's place?
We're roommates.
Roommates.
Yeah.
Okay, so Brooklyn, and then I got to see, where is Brooklyn's name on my list? Are you actually somebody that is in the class? For instance, there's Brooklyn right there, and I've got you working with Kylie Dombrowski. Okay, so that's good. So first, Kylie, same question. Do you have a idea, an image, something that you want to work on?
Maybe an octopus, maybe a butterfly, maybe a sea lion.
Okay, you're all over the place. Octopus, butterfly, sea lion. Okay. The butterfly is going to be the easiest. The sea lion is going to be the second easiest, because the sea lion is basically a big ground slug with flippers. So they're pretty easy to do. The butterfly is super easy formally to do, because basically you've got two wings and that's about it. The body in the middle is just about insignificant. The octopus would probably be the most difficult thing, and also going to be interesting. And again, if you can keep them small, if you can keep them like to 4 inches or so in, for the octopus, I was going to say 4 inches in diameter or so. And that's not if the tentacles are totally stretched out, but if they're kind of wiggly, kind of S forms back and forth and stuff. If you had, the head of the octopus in the middle was maybe 1 inch or 2 high, and the arms and all of their S curving glory kind of come out to about something that's 4 or 5 inches in diameter, that would be a good size to work in. Does that sound like something that you were thinking about doing size wise?
Yeah.
Okay, that would be really good. And as we go through this process, everybody else picks up on all of these cues about size and other ideas. And maybe you've already suggested or convinced somebody else to do an octopus because, hey, that's a cool form. I didn't think of that. Why don't I do something like that? So thank you for sharing. That sounds good. Brooklyn, how about you? Do you have an idea that you have that conjured up?
I wanted to do like a largemouth bass, a fish.
A bass. Are you a fisher person?
Yeah.
And so you fish for bass?
Yeah.
So you fish in lakes? Is there bass fishing in Oregon? Are you from around here?
No, I'm from North Idaho.
North Idaho, where there is bass fishing. Okay, so that's fantastic. Is this something, I can't remember what the equipment is for bass fishing. So you're not doing the fly fishing thing. You're doing spin casting or something?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, okay. On lakes, in a boat, maybe trolling, that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, I got you all figured out. So are you going to do like big mouth Billy Bass, a singing bass on a plaque that sings songs to us and stuff?
Yeah.
Walk up to it. Take me to the river. Yeah, wash me in the water. Okay, well, a bass is what she wants to do. So try to keep your bass small. I know you want to do some kind of large, huge bass, but actually for the purposes of the sculpture class, if you can keep it, again, in the 4 to 5 inch range lengthwise and maybe 3 to 4 inches tall, that would satisfy the class. It would get you an A in the class. It would also be something you could afford to pay for at the end of all of this. And if you have it actually with little fins, front fins and back fins kind of sticking out, it could actually stand up all by itself on a coffee table. It wouldn't need a base. It would just be a freestanding thing. It could actually lay down on a coffee table or on a shelf, but it could also stand up and present, faces, both right and left sides to people. It could actually stand on the 4 points of the fins making contact on the table. You have to kind of watch out the tail so that the tail doesn't hang down any lower than the 2 back fins. But if you can do, let's see, dorsal fin, pectoral fins, and I don't know what the back fins are called, but anyway, or even just pectoral fins and the tail point, it could stand on 3 points of contact and it would stand up on a table. Just letting you know, I'm working for you. I'm working on this for you, trying to figure out how to make this present as a bronze sculpture. So that was Kylie and Brooklyn, and now Robert. Are you still there? Are you with us, Robert?
Yeah,
Come in, please.
I'm here.
All right. So what are you thinking about in terms of an image? Anything fun, interesting?
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm doing like a Texas Longhorn.
What? A steer? I
Yeah,
mean, not a steer, a bull. I don't know. What? Texas Longhorn. Are you from Texas?
I'm not.
Okay. So what I would suggest with that is trying to get a picture of it from the side so that you can see what the proportions and shape is of the torso of the animal and the legs. And we're going to probably start trying to sculpt it from the side. And then eventually we're going to have to like bisect the legs and separate them and try to take something from a side view thing that only has 2 legs that are visible hanging down to building those out into shoulders and separating those legs so that there's a leg on each side of the plane of the body of the thing. And I guess I might even have to build myself a steer here so that I can try to do some demonstration and that stuff with you. But I wrote down Texas Longhorn for you. So again, try to keep it small. If you can try to keep it, make sure that it doesn't exceed like 5 inches in length and maybe 4 inches in height. That's
Yeah,
still gonna be about a $30 piece as a bronze casting. But the interesting part is gonna be those horns. The Texas Longhorn horns kind of go straight out for quite a ways and then curve at the ends. And it's a different shape of a horn than other kinds of bovine horns.
Mm-hmm.
But you're all over that, right? Because this is your favorite animal. Is this
Not
your
quite.
spirit animal?
It's not.
It is not your spirit animal? Dude, what's you? Okay, if I ask you your spirit animal, that you want to be an eagle and everybody else wants to be an eagle because everybody wants to be an eagle. That's everybody's spirit animal. All right, I'll leave it alone. Thank you, Robert. That was really cool. Will, are you there? Will Evans. You're the last person on the list. Everybody else didn't show up today because they didn't want to have to answer this question. But
I guess
Will,
so.
what do you want to make?
So much like Kylie, I'm from Yeehaw land, and
Yeah.
fish is pretty important. And so I was kind of thinking, there's a pretty prominent fish in the river I'm next to called a sturgeon,
Oh my gosh.
and I have quite a few pictures of them, and I thought because it's a pretty flat fish, and
Well-
pretty geometric too. I thought it would be a pretty good.
Well, the sturgeon is an ancient fish, and it is
Yeah.
an ugly fish, and it is a huge fish.
Yeah,
So
very big.
that's the problem, is trying to keep your sturgeon somewhere maybe 8 inches long or something, because when you're dealing with a gigantic fish, your urge is to make a larger thing. But if you make a sturgeon this long, it's going to cost you 150 to 200 bucks if a cast is solid. If you make a sturgeon that's 8 inches long, that's going to be, $25 to $30. So the difference between a sturgeon this big and this big is a huge difference in cost. Can you keep it to within 8 inches long?
Yeah, I was kind of playing around. I got a wax fish turd here, kind of going. It's about 8 inches.
Okay. So Will, I gotta find you, and then I'm gonna pin you on here so we can see. It is a fish turd, and it's beautiful. That is definitely sturgeon shaped. That's gonna be great. Okay,
Yeah.
I like that. That's awesome. So very good. Okay, let's see. Now what do I do with you? I don't know how to take the pin off of you. I'm gonna go find myself. I'm gonna unpin, I'm gonna repin, I'm gonna do something like that. Spotlight for everyone. How about this? I've removed all the pins. So now whoever is talking is gonna have the spotlight on them. And so we can have now free exchange of stuff. So that's not such a boring video. Thank you for sharing the sturgeon. Again, with the dorsal, no, with the pectoral fins hanging down and the bottom point of the tail fin, you might be able to get this thing to actually stand on 3 points with the belly suspended off the tabletop. You might have to, while sculpting on it, you may have to lay it on a couple of supporting pieces of wax so that the fins don't get smashed. But once it's cast in bronze and those fins are solid metal, they will hold up the whole weight of the piece just fine. And it'll look like it's floating just a little bit above the tabletop, which is kind of an interesting look for these, especially fish, to have them look like they're swimming, look like they're floating in air as they're sitting on a coffee table or on a bookshelf is a really cool look. And they won't then require any kind of a base element. We can talk about bases if you really, really have your heart set on making a base for it, but this simplifies your life quite a bit if you don't have to build a base element for your sculpture. So that would be great. Does anybody have any questions now for me generally about the class? We've been talking about this stuff for 2 weeks, and I have kind of done a basic little primer on modeling in wax and cutting out a thing out of a sheet of wax. And you guys have got some stuff started. You've got your, fish turds and other things kind of started. I have my person turd right here that I have begun as a sculpture, but I haven't done anything more to it. So if anybody has a question, go ahead and unmute your mic. You can all unmute your mics at this point and just kind of talk amongst each other. You can ask Aurora about her damn dancing figure because that's kind of insane. And she could, talk at greater length about that if you wanted to. Hey, Aurora, what's up?
Hi. Nothing. You just made me laugh.
I made you laugh. Hey, on Monday you asked about joining me for an office hour, and I've been a little bit incommunicado the last couple of days. I hope you haven't been trying to visit me for an
No.
office hour. I'm happy to have a little bit of conversation about sculptures and career pathways and colleges or university programs that you might want to transfer into and that kind of stuff. We can do that in the middle of class, and then other people can benefit from the conversation if you want. And if not, we can definitely do it on an office hour at some point.
I don't know. I get a bit nervous in front of other people, so I'll probably talk to you about like career path stuff during an office hour. But
Okay.
I'm better when I'm like in person, but through Zoom, this is not my gig.
Okay.
Anywho, but yeah, I didn't quite mean to go quite as far as I did with this thing, but I did the torso and then didn't stop. So my other question to you is, as far as like faces go in this, are there tricks to doing faces?
Well, my ideas for doing faces, let's see, is the tricks for doing faces. Okay. I rely heavily when I'm working in this scale of stuff. Let's see, spotlight for everyone. So are you guys seeing me when we were talking, or was the spotlight always on Aurora? I don't know. Anyway, right now I'm going to talk about mine. So a little face like this is really tiny, and I'm going to draw some lines on the face. I want to draw, a vertical line so that I'm looking at separating the right half of the sculpture from the left half with a vertical line running down the middle of the face. And then I might do a horizontal line right across the center of the horizontal portion of the face. So I've got a little crisscross thing going on here to just help divide up the face. So on an adult face, the eyes are going to be just above that little crisscross thing. If it was a child's faces are relatively short. And so a child's face eyes would be on the center line, the horizontal center line. In the time that I've talked about that, I have kind of pushed into the face with my tool and kind of dug out a little bit of an eye socket kind of thing. And that's just above the center line to get the eyes started. And then the nose and mouth are going to be below that horizontal center line. And of course, they're going to be on the vertical center line. So there's going to be just a teeny tiny little nose, and I'm going to have to build all of that stuff with the tip of my tool as I'm working. So I'm going to be tearing pieces of wax off that are teeny tiny. I'm going to apply a little teeny bit of wax on here as a like something to build a nose out of. And then with my tool, with the back of my tool, just kind of blend it into place, swiping on one side of that particle of wax and then swiping on the other side of that particle, and then nudging it so that it's on the center line, so that I have begun a vestigial nose form right under those eye forms. And the same thing would happen eventually with a mouth. I'm going to roll out a little coil of clay between my thumb and forefinger. I'm going to place that coil of clay where lips are going to go, right underneath the mouth form on this thing. Oh my God, it's so stupid. It's almost like Mr. Bill. You know, it's like some kind of a little basic clay animation kind of thing. Anyway, stop it, James. So, and then with the tool, I'm going to just blend from that thing into the cheek area, blending carefully with the tool to kind of get that lip form to blend in to the cheek, and then down, you know, towards the where the chin is probably going to wind up being. So I have this little slee stack, this little alien form here, vaguely humanoid form that has eye sockets, a vestigial nose form, and a vestigial mouth form started. And they're pretty close to being in the right locations, the right proportions, the right spots, the right locations on a face. Now, my face from the side doesn't have a chin yet, so I have to apply some chin and kind of build myself a chin and jawbone. And so I'm going to stick some pieces of clay on there that are just little round pieces of clay for chin and jawbone. And then I'm going to use the tool. I'm going to try to do this on camera, so I'm doing it backwards and in reverse. I'm trying to blend those pieces of clay in to the surrounding supporting wax to try to build the jaw and the chin forms on the bottom side of this. I wasn't really ready to make a face here. I didn't have enough form kind of built up where I was maybe comfortable to start my face, but you asked. And so
I tried doing all of that, but it always ended up looking like Squidward.
like a who?
Squidward from SpongeBob SquarePants. The nose is like giant. The mouth is really big.
Yeah, it's going to look like that because when you first do something, it looks like shit. And then you have to revise and revise and revise. And that's the first time we do anything in art, it looks bad. And so then the revision process keeps happening until we run out of any ability to revise it. And so our ability to make wonderful sculptures is only as great as our ability to see this thing with new eyes every time we pick it up and look at it and see if there is something about the shape that we can change to make better, to make closer to reality or closer to something that you know, appears like a real human being or a real human set of proportions. And I struggled with this for years when I was, you know, in college and then in graduate school. I probably had to do 30 or 40 sculptures before I really started to understand all of the forms and proportions and really get them to start looking like something, and also to build myself a kind of style that I was working in. Now I noticed that your sculptures already have a style. Your pieces are lovely. They're pretty, they're provocative. They're about very voluptuous female forms. The hair is always super huge Texas style hair with long movement and flowing quality to the hair. So you've got a whole bunch of things that you're already doing that you've done in the 5 sculptures that I've seen you do. You have a style. So you've already got a style. That's really good. That's really cool. It took me forever to try to come up with a style to work in. So your style is just fine. But doing this micro sculpture with just the tiny tip of the tool is just, it's hard and it's painstaking and it just takes time. So I hope you guys like listening to music, because you probably should queue up some of your favorite music on whatever device you listen to music on, and just be able to sit and lose yourself in music for several hours. The cool thing about creative flow, about being an artist and really concentrating on your work, is that time just seems to dissolve, and you can get so into your sculpture, working on your sculpture, that you don't even realize that hours have passed since you started working on it. Now, for those of you who are in my class, to hear me blather on and on about stuff, you probably haven't realized that an hour has passed since class started, or maybe it's painfully obvious to you that an hour has already passed, or it has crawled by since class has started. You wish I would just shut up and let us go. And you're probably right about that. But for me, the time has flown by because I've been in flow. I've been in a state of creative flow, trying to present and create this class learning situation for and with you guys. So the time, I looked up and 40 minutes had gone by, and it was like it was just a couple moments ago that we started this class. So that's kind of the process of creativity and being in creative flow, is that when you really start working with the wax and looking at your visual references, whatever they might be, and you get into a rhythm of applying the wax and blending the wax and smoothing the wax, but not too much, because we don't want to smooth things forever, because that's too much. You'll get into a state of flow, and then time will just it won't even be a thing anymore, and you'll just wonder how you could have sat there for 3 hours sculpting, because it just all went by in a flash. That's almost a beautiful place for me to end on tonight. I'm seeing that we've been at it for about 50 minutes. And again, this is supposed to be a class that is 3 hours long, and it's a lecture lab. So I'm supposed to lecture or present for the first half hour to an hour or so. And then you're supposed to do another 2 hours of lab time where you're sculpting. And you just either sculpt quietly by yourselves, or you sculpt and talk, with each other, your table mates or whatever. Right now, we can't do this in person, so you're going to have to do this at home to get this sculpture started. I noticed that this morning, Oregon's threat level changed from extreme to high. So we came down 1 step on the threat level scale. And that's really good. That means that maybe by next week, I think we could maybe start doing in-person classes if we stick with that program. If we go back to extreme, then no, we can't start in-person classes yet. So, for the first 3 weeks of this quarter, we might be having to continue to meet like this with Zoom. And even, if we start meeting in person, I imagine that several of you will have to stay home and continue doing this via Zoom, because you either have a pre-existing condition, you're in an at-risk group, or somebody in your household is in an at-risk group. So I'm perfectly prepared to teach this class in a hybrid situation where I'm doing it in front of the webcam for those of you at home, and then have 5 or 6 or 10 people, sitting here in the classroom working on stuff too. Well, we will cross that bridge when we come to it, but that's a possibility that's starting to become more possible. I've had my first vaccine dose a week ago, and I'm scheduled for my second one at the end of April. And hopefully you guys can somehow get into line, and maybe by the end of May you'll be able to get your vaccines either started or completed. The more people who get vaccinated, the more confident we can be about opening up our classes to in-person attendance again. And I know that all of you are eager to have in-person classes until you actually attend to the first in-person class, and then you remember what a drag it is to actually go to class and be with a teacher. So, you can want to be here all you want to, and then as soon as we get in person, it gets old really fast. So, that's just kind of the nature of things. That's how things kind of work. In the time that I've been talking about all of this, I got my face a little bit more established on this thing. I started to build out my deltoid muscles a little bit on the two shoulders. I began to start to build out the chest, just a teeny tiny little bit at the top of the chest. And so the volume of the ribs has to come, and the volume in the abdomen has to come, and everything else. And so we just kind of continue to just build and talk and build and talk as we apply the wax to our piece to get it to kind of continue to morph and form and fill out into the volumes and the volumetric nature of a three-dimensional sculpture. That sounds like a really good place to end it for tonight. Any questions before I go? Any other questions or comments? You can go ahead and unmute your mic if you have anything for me. Otherwise, and you can leave if you want to, because we're good. We're done. We're going to be done here. So thank you. Finalize your ideas focused for a sculpture. If you don't have them yet, by Monday, we really have to have an idea for a sculpture that you're working on. And otherwise, I'll see you Monday to continue the sculpting process online. Have a good rest of your week and weekend, and we'll see you again on Monday night. Bye-bye for now.